Hi guys, my name is Trisha and I'm going to tell you about my story. Excuse me if I start to cry or if I pause. This is really hard for me to tell my story and talk about it with you guys. I just want to inform my friends and my family and other people who's been through this. You know, you're not alone if you have lost a child. This may be hard for people to hear, so if this is hard for you to hear, I'm sorry. But at the same time, I'm not sorry because this is what I've been through and this is real life. So, I have 3 babies that I've lost, and I will go through their story and my experiences with you one by one. And I'm not going to show but one picture for each one. So, first off is Sierra. So this is Sierra Nicole, and her story is hard. I was a single parent by myself with a 6-year-old. Well, he's 6 now. He would have been one going on 2 through this process. So being a single mom, this was hard for me and having to do all these decisions on my own. So with her, I had to go to the doctors a lot. At 10 weeks, they found that I had blood behind my uterus. And they said it would go away, it would fix itself. Come to find out that wasn't the case. I started bleeding. I bled the whole entire pregnancy, and it was too late to try to fix that issue. I got sent to Evansville to a more high-risk doctor, and by 17 weeks, I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. 17 weeks was exciting and sad all in one day. So 17 weeks, they told me that I was having a girl. I was so excited. I couldn't believe I was having a girl. Then the doctor said he would be right back and, left the room. So we were stuck in there, excited that we had a girl, but we were wanting to know what was going on. They finally came back and they were like, she doesn't have a lot of fluid and we don't think she's going to make it. So I had to, take that information and go home with that, with not only good news, but all of a sudden, she's being taken away in a sense. She's still healthy, everything's still going on, but they said that pretty much they didn't know how I was carrying her, that she should have miscarried. And they didn't know why she wasn't miscarrying. So weeks went by and I had to go back again at 19 weeks. 19 weeks I had no fluid. The amniotic fluid that surrounds the baby was gone. They said she still had a heartbeat. She was still growing. But they were like, you need to terminate. She ain't gonna make it. Knowing me, there's a reason why she's still here, and I'm not giving up on her. So I told them no, that I'm not doing that. So by my next appointment, they said, pack your bags, you're gonna be hospital bed rest. So I was probably in the hospital for about a week. And my blood pressure and my temperature one day just spiked pretty much. And they were like, "You're going into surgery. I need you to get in the gown and get ready." I'm an hour away from family. I literally called everybody while I'm sitting here getting into this gown. I texted her father, be like, "I'm having her now. If you want to come, you can." And I only had time to call my mom and tell her what was going on. I was going into surgery for the first time by myself, alone and scared. There was tornadoes that day, so the hospital was on lockdown. My family didn't make it for the surgery, but they got there soon after. Sorry. So I got wheeled in to see her, and I got to see her moving her legs and her arms and all these cords just running out of my kid, and a breathing tube in her mouth, and it was overwhelming. It was very overwhelming, and I cried every time I held her. Later that night, or the next morning, I got my lunch, and I was starting to eat, and they're like, "You need to come in and see her now." They're like, "She doesn't have much longer." So I dropped everything I was doing, got in there, and they're like, "She passed away." Of course, I didn't believe it. I looked at her, and that's when she took her last breath. That was my first experience. We were very prepared that we knew that she wasn't going to make it. She did live for 20 hours. She was 1 pound and 12 inches long. And I'm very blessed to have had that time with her. I felt a burden lifted off my shoulders after her funeral, that she was in a good place. But that's my experience with my daughter, Sierra. So, next will be my son. This is Braxton Charles D. He is my precious little baby. They all are. But I'm going to be talking about his story. So, about Braxton. Okay. So by the time I was pregnant with Braxton, I wasn't a single mommy anymore. I had met my husband, the man of my dreams. I married Zachary, and this was our first child. I was so excited. I moved to Florida with him because he's military, and I wanted him to have all the experience being a first-time dad, you know. Everything was perfect with him. We had good doctor's appointments, way good. We've always been told he was going to be a big baby. And we were all prepared for him. So with him, it all happened a week prior to my C-section date. So I was 36 weeks when I delivered Braxton at 7 pounds, 4 ounces, and 19 inches long. My husband worked late. He had just got home about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. And it was about normal routine, you know, no issues, no signs, no nothing, you know. Our normal routine of him telling him goodnight. I woke up to belly pains, like I had to use the bathroom. So I got up to go and I couldn't go. So I went back to bed. And then I had him again, so I got up to try to go again, and I collapsed in the floor. Now, just to warn you, all this that I've heard, I was unconscious for most of this, so a lot of what I've heard is from my husband, who was there and experienced it. But I had collapsed on the floor, and I was yelling and screaming in pain. So my husband woke up, called 911, and of course I'm passing in and out of unconsciousness. The ambulance got me to the hospital. They were pushing on me and everything. By the time I got to the hospital, I could not see. I could not move. By the time they wheeled me into surgery, I could not hear, and I was unable to move my head. They had said that I had lost as much blood as a human can lose. 20 more minutes and I would have been dead. I had to have 4 blood transfusions. They didn't know if I'd wake up. With Braxton, when I first got there and they were pushing on my stomach with ultrasound machines and everything, they had already knew he had no heartbeat by the time they took me into surgery. So what had happened with him is my uterus came open. So I had a 4-inch basically opening. He wasn't through the opening, it was just open, and I was bleeding internally. So if you want to know how that feels, how they described it to my husband was pretty much, imagine having acid in your stomach. Drinking a bottle of acid is how it feels to be bleeding internally. Very excruciating pain. So when I finally woke up from surgery, they were very shocked. I'm very blessed that I had made it out of that surgery. As my husband described the operating room, it looked like 2 murders. That's how much blood was everywhere from my surgery. It took 4 hours. My husband had to leave to go get some clothes once I came to, and when he was gone is when I asked the question to my nurse, what had happened? Is my baby alive? Is my baby in the NICU? And she just told me, no, my baby didn't make it. And I couldn't deal with it at the time, so I just closed my eyes and went to sleep. This was a very, very, very hard for me and my husband, mainly because he was supposed to be here. Sorry, like I said, it's really hard. I just want people to know, be educated. But like I said, this is our baby, and he was supposed to be here. But things happened, and now he's our angel. But this is Braxton, and he's so handsome. Okay, so our most recent baby, and this may be really hard for me to talk about. This was only 5 weeks ago, so this is very fresh for me. The first one, Sierra, was back in 2013, and Braxton was back in 2015. And then this is our daughter, Savannah. So this is Savannah Lillian. And Lillian was my son's doing. He picked Lily for her middle name, and I changed it into Lillian. So this is Savannah Lily, and and she was born a 1/2 pound and 8 inches at 19 weeks. And about her, so my story with her, this was just 5 weeks ago. I delivered her on June 13th this year, 2018. It's really hard to process this experience and everything that had happened. It was very fast. We didn't have a lot of time with her. We had just found out we're having a girl, and we were so excited. We did a gender reveal with family, and I got so excited. I already knew I was going to do elephants. And pretty much 3 to 4 weeks from losing her, we had found out she's a girl, and we started getting excited about it. We started getting a little more attached. We had already picked out the name Savannah. Sorry. So we had leave. Leave, if you don't know, is military way of saying we have vacation time. And we went home to visit family. Could say it wasn't a very good family experience, being that I was in the hospital for a week. So I was at my mother's house when I woke up, kind of the same experience with Braxton. I woke up with stomach pains. I was very clammy, body was sweating, and I texted my mother to call 911. Something was wrong. So they did. EMTs got there. Of course, I was a little more aware. I never passed out, so the whole experience is there, and I wish it wasn't. Of course, we get to the hospital, same things. They're poking and ultrasounding and trying to figure out what was going on. Of course, my blood pressure is dropping so bad that they have me upside down. I'm screaming my head off. Sorry if I say a lot. It's just a lot. But anyways, they thought that there was possible that my appendix ruptured. Looking through the ultrasound, seeing all the fluid, they thought that. So the mindset was, when I was going in surgery, that they were going to do exploratory surgery, meaning they were going to open me up different. So C-section is side to side down in the pelvis. This time with the exploratory surgery, they go up to your belly button, from your pelvis to your belly button. When they got in there, that wasn't the case, and they were going to have to take her. They found out that my uterus had ruptured again, but this time severely. She was actually coming through my uterus, through the placenta, sorry. So the uterine rupture, the placenta was coming through the uterus. If that makes sense. So I end up having to have 4 things of blood and 1 thing of plasma this time. I was severely anemic. I was awake after surgery this time. It was a lot different. My surgery was a little shorter. They still had to reconstruct my uterus again. This time was hard. She lived for 2 hours, which I'm impressed for being 19 weeks. She lived for 2 hours, breathing from her mouth. She's too little and underdeveloped to be put on machines. My husband got those 2 hours as I was still kind of unaware of what was going on. So she was, like I said, pretty rushed. It's really hard to comprehend everything, and it wasn't that long ago. So we're still in the grieving stages of this, and I just hope that everybody, understands what we've went through, and, losing a child is not easy, and losing 3 babies is unheard of, and I get told, the things I get told a lot is I'm strong, I could never do that, the things I do, and I keep on going with my life, and I give advice, but no one understands that I'm really not that strong, and that this is really hard for me, and I hope that people understand, yeah, I took that 50-50 chance with having my last child, just because I'm a woman and, I want a child. That isn't the case. I took that chance to have another child because in your mind, being told that you have a 50-50 chance of having another child, you want to try. You want to believe that you're going to be in that okay, and it isn't always that case. And Savannah was that. And it's also been hard because I've been told that I'm not allowed to get pregnant anymore. Actually, in the process of getting my ultrasound done to check my uterus and see if they're going to remove my uterus, because at the time I had too much trauma, or if they're going to tie my tubes. But we, in the future, are looking to adopt. We're also looking at our options of surrogacy, because I can still have my eggs taken out to do surrogacy. I just can't bear a child anymore. And that's been the hardest thing for me. I mean, as a woman, you want to have kids, and being told that that's taken away is very hard. So dealing with everything right now, it's been hard. But I wanted to put that out there, be kind to people. You don't know what they've been through. Don't judge people. I mean, I've been told I must be mental for having another child, knowing my my chances are very slim. And I'm not mental. That has nothing to do with it. It's just my body isn't as strong. My uterus isn't as good as other people. And I love babies. It's just hard for me. My sisters are having babies and I can't. And watching them have babies that are around the age, of Braxton or the age of Savannah, and it's hard because they got pregnant around the same time as me. Doesn't mean I hate them. Doesn't mean, the worst. Those are my niece or my nephew, or, I love them. I actually went and seen my nephew and held him and spent time with him. Yes, it's hard, but at the same time, life moves around you if you don't move with it. So I think that's it, guys, and I appreciate you guys watching and seeing my experience. And I do have a healthy 6-year-old, and I'm blessed to have him. And I just want to say God bless, and thank you for watching. I will be posting something again at the end of this week, if not next Monday. So I hope you guys tune in for my exciting news coming up that should help me with my grieving process. So, bye everybody.